Here's the earthworks we did before Hurricane Ian. Now, I was concerned about the slopes here and that they would kind of erode down due to the rains. By the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. But what I'm seeing instead is that we do have some cover crop take. The straw was kind of washed off the edge, so I probably put in some more straw and tamped down some things. But look at that. You can really see the differentiation between the areas that held, spread, and soaked in water and the areas that are the buns, the high points to keep the water from overflowing. So I'm going to just walk down here and show you. I'm actually walking in the detention basin, or it's not even a detention basin. It's just kind of a soft crescent. And that material was thrown up the hill. And you can see the cover crop starting to come in under the straw. The straw provides humidity at the lower to the soil, which allows the seeds to germinate. And then on these slopes, I think I want to take a stick and just bang them down, make them a little bit tighter. But everything held in place as it should. And you can see some of the paint from the contour line. We don't have any pooling. Doesn't look like there was a whole lot of pooling, which is good. It means the water is spread and soaked into the ground. But I do need to get a couple more bales of straw out here to just keep this soil covered up. Now, we had heavy winds and rains from the hurricane. We're in Virginia. You can see a lot of this straw has stuck together. We're in Virginia, so we didn't get as heavy of a rain, but what I'm looking for is patterns. Remember the video from a while back here, we talked about patterns. I'm looking for how did the water settle and if it ran. So you can see the finer soils have filled in the tractor tracks, and we really didn't get any wet spots. Again, this kind of earthworks is to help level out this field a little bit more so that we slow and spread water, so that we retain more of our nutrients, so it's better accessible with equipment. And then of course down here is a little drive area. Now we're going to end up with a microclimate, but we want to be able to access our growing spaces, and that's why these kind of earthworks are put in place. These kind of earthworks are not hard to implement, but they must be implemented correctly, because if we had detained water on this slope, and I'm not going to walk in it because there's cover crops, but if we had detained water on this berm, it would have saturated and possibly collapsed, and we don't want that. What we want is the slow and spread of water. And as I'm looking through here, it looks like it did just that. And then as that water soaked into the ground, the water became a rehydration of the soil rather than something that's going to evaporate, something that's going to run off nutrient. And ultimately, as these cover crops come in, we're going to get maximum use out of this space. Such a beautiful setup here. You can barely see that it's there. And you want your earthworks to naturally blend in with the area. And of course, when I'm standing up in this level area, you know, we could dig out the top a little bit. You'll see another earthworks up top there. However, this bed will be a lot easier to manage and a lot easier to grow out. Now again, I like primitive farming and agriculture, but again, if you're at this scale, you need to be able to use some kind of equipment, the BCS tractor, an actual tractor, because we're covering such large space. Up here came in really good. You can see this berm, it held some of the straw a little bit better. I don't see any runoff. And again, I'm only gonna walk on the bottom because there's a little bit of moisture here, but I do see some straw needs to be put on. And again, I'm looking for patterns. All these little tire treads, you can see the water has settled in the tire tracks and the treads, and some seeds are germinating. I do see a little bit of material that rolled down the hill. I can simply pick this up, stick it in a divot, and I should probably do the same thing here, is beat that down to kind of give it a little more compaction on the slope. Now the length of the slope is how far we need to have compaction on the top of a bund, and the height of the shelf, or height of the terrace, we have to have 2 times that as far as the shelf of the terrace. So this cut in here goes up about 3 feet, and so we got to have 6 foot of shelf at the minimum. It's about 2 or 3, it's about 3 feet diagonal, so we have to have about 3 foot compacted top. That way we can bring equipment in. And I'm talking equipment like a tractor. You don't want to be driving along the edge of here and it collapse and roll your tractor into your garden area. Now this garden area came out incredibly good. It's nice and level. You can start seeing the brassicas come in, and this field is going to be much easier to manage. It's right now in cover crop, and it really needs to be get into that full cover, and then I'm going to flail mow it when it gets longer. We're not going to allow things to get long like we did last year. Last year was mainly for demonstration purposes. This year, once this stuff gets knee high, hip high, I'm going to flail mow it and return that carbon to the soil so we can compost in place and start getting that soil biology going that's going to give us more growing and planting areas. We want as many level growing and planting areas as possible, and you can see from this perspective, we followed that contour. You can't even tell that that hill has been put in there. We're going to have rows of trees. By the way, this particular system, if it was taller, if we were going up 6 feet with a 12-foot shelf, we could put the diagonal on the 6 foot could be almost 7 feet. Within that first 7 feet, in the middle of that, we could put trees. Now, again, if you have questions about this, you want to see diagrams, these shelves are excellent for turning sloped and difficult to manage areas into more level, water conserving spaces that are easier to grow and plant on. See these beds down here, we want them level so that we can run an automatic seeder through it and seed them out with corn, seed them out with other things. And then we want to get as many of these fields active as possible. This field behind me is a little bit more difficult because it has a low back corner. So we're not gonna do anything to that. But we have plans to consolidate a few terraces up top and much more. Be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to ask your questions. We're going into fall, so it's currently October. We want to have all of our earthworks done before the winter season to allow that winter snow and cold to set everything in place. And then we want these cover crops just booming to get that nutrients back into the soil, to get that root mass under the ground to help soak and spread that water, to get our systems in place so that we have a much stronger next season. If you have questions, visit www.prosperityhomestead.org. Ask your questions. If you want to get out and do some of this kind of stuff, then be sure to mention that, and we'll see about getting you on a list so that you can find out when these activities happen in our region. And again, I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead, showing you what's been done here at the Sustainable Homestead Institute.